It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
We're kind of doing. Yep. Hope everybody's
We're doing the thing.
Hope everybody's doing okay out there. Apologize for not having an episode last week, but, life happens. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Life definitely be happening. Oh, man. Yeah, it's been crazy over here. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. It's kind of like one of those, yeah.
We didn't get our harumph out of that, man.
Although to follow up on, I think it was your news story last time we recorded about Sleepaway Camp.
I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but we definitely I posted something on Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. I hadn't seen the movie, and I didn't want to fully read the article that you had posted, and it was like, because I didn't, if I'm going to watch it, I didn't want to be spoiled, especially if this ending is so bad, right?
Oh, so you did not know the ending?
I didn't know the ending.
I mean, I have not seen the movie, but I've seen that image for years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, I grew up in a very Pentecostal Christian home. No, I had never seen that movie before. But when it got to the end, all through the movie, I'm thinking, well, this isn't too bad. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen this story. Kids at camp wind up getting slaughtered. We know the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the article even goes into that. It's a standard fare because at that point there had been so many rip-offs and copies and whatever else you want to call it. So it was all cliched.
And there's only so much you could do in the slasher genre, So comparing it to in the 80s field, it wasn't a bad movie. And so you got to that ending. Did it ruin the whole movie? Yes.
Spoiler alert.
There were so many. I mean, especially like I said, I had it in my head. Now this ending's going to be whacked, because the article and everything else. And like I said, we had kind of talked about it and everything else. So I'm thinking, I've got these like crazy scenarios going in my head about what's going to happen. Okay, it's going to be this guy, and it's going to be Ricky's mom, or no, I didn't see that one coming at all. I wished I didn't see that one coming at all. The movie was so bad, I watched the sequels.
Yeah, that sounds like you, all right.
I'm a completist.
Okay, that's your fault.
Now, actually, though, the second and the third one, now, if these were very campy, corny, one-liner movies. I mean, totally different than the first one, because the first one, I guess they kind of wanted to surprise you on who the killer was, because I like I said, I didn't see that one coming, With the second and the third one, you know who the killer is. It's Angela, and her backstory from the first one, and they kind of lightly touch on it and tell you a little bit in the second one to kind of fill you in on who this girl is. But they didn't use the same actress from the first one with the second and the third one. Now, I've heard there's like a remake, not like 2012, but the original actress that played Angela comes back for that one. But yeah, the second and third one, very, very B films. Very B films. If you're expecting to watch a masterpiece, you're going to be disappointed, because these B's you watch when you know it's bad. There's no purport to be good,
I've heard many things, but a sentence including slasher films and masterpiece, I've never heard before.
Right. Well, some of them can be done very well.
They can be do, but a masterpiece,
yeah,
that may be stretching.
Right, and it's usually not slasher. Yeah. Horror, yes, but slasher, no. And usually, I feel, especially in the 80s and stuff, they kind of went for that cheesy, campy stuff. That's what made it a good slasher film. And the second and third one definitely tapped into the cheesy part.
Well, let's face it. A lot of these were done quickly and cheaply because they're trying to cash in on the craze. Yeah. It happens in every genre.
The second and the third one were filmed back to back at the same location. They weren't the same camp. I mean, it was the same camp, but in the movies there were two different camps, but it was the same camp. So it definitely it kept the vibe because the girl looked the same. Because, like I said, they were shot back to back. The third one, they were reaching, really, really reaching. Because at this point, Angela's like 21, but she's at a camp supposed to be 17. So it's kind of, okay, drugs maybe, but I think I enjoyed watching the second and the third one better than the first one, because the first one made me very uncomfortable. I don't enjoy watching little kids cuss or be sexual or see them naked, which the first one kind of really, the age group was so much younger. So I think with the second and the third one, they kind of paid attention to, hey, we're kind of dabbling in a line with these kids that we shouldn't, So they did move the age group up. So it was like, instead of 11, 12-year-olds, you had 17, 18-year-olds. So it wasn't as ick, and see, that was another thing I was thinking, because it was like, damn, I mean, were all of the horror films like incestual and, borderline pedophilia? And I don't think they were. This one was definitely incestuous. Most of the slasher films, like in Friday the 13th, perfect example since they're both camp films, it's not about the kids. The story does nothing. They don't touch the kids. He doesn't kill the kids. It's all about the counselors, which make it a little bit, easier to watch, because these are 18-year-olds having sex with each other instead of 12-year-olds, So
well, and I mean, I see where you're coming from, but actually we really don't see any kids in camp until like 6. How long?
Right.
Friday 6, because the rest of them has been like them setting up the camp.
Yeah.
To get ready for the kids to show up, and then that's when they all get killed. And
even when they do show the little kids in the later ones, he leaves them alone.
Yeah, he doesn't mess with them, no.
Not at all. They close their eyes, they open them up, and he's gone. He doesn't mess with them. So honestly, I don't know if I would like the movies if he did. To me, like I said, it's kind of it's kind of don't mess with the dogs or kids in films. That's like the number one thing. You don't mess with dogs and kids.
But she's a big fan of Halloween, guys. Imagine that.
Yeah, you know.
How many dogs were killed in that franchise?
Yeah. But, you know, even like with Halloween, though, Laurie and them, they're portraying teenagers, but they were all over, 18 at the time? So it wasn't
Yeah,
you know.
well, I mean, yeah, he doesn't mess with the kids until Halloween 2018. But, I mean, there was about 4 or 5 killed in the...
Yeah, but that was at a college, too, though, wasn't it?
Killed in the first film.
Oh, yeah, in the first one, yeah.
Yeah,
but he does, yeah. But he don't mess with the little ones. He wants the babysitters.
No, right.
You know.
Well, I'm just going back and you talking about he doesn't. Jason doesn't kill dogs or kids.
Oh no, he kills dogs.
Yeah, but well, so does Michael. So
yeah. So yeah, like I said, the first one was definitely one of those that was. Yeah, I wouldn't have. According to the article, it was like it was a great film up until that point, and it was like, no, it really wasn't. You know, hang on.
Yeah, like I said, I hadn't seen it, so I can't say one way or the other. Les, have you seen it?
Yes. In fact,
What's your thoughts?
I have a poster signed by the lead actress.
Oh, she's been hitting the convention circuit the last few years, big time.
Yeah. Well, and she had
ahead.
even said that she didn't what the article was tapping into, like the transphobia and stuff. She has even said that she didn't see it that way at the time. So I definitely don't blame the actress for this film. It was, yeah. There was more going on than the transgender thing for me. That wasn't shock. Oh, yeah, spoiler. To me, that wasn't
that's one of the worst kept
shocking
spoilers in
part.
horror movies. I mean, come on.
Well, I know. Like I said, I've seen the picture hundreds of times. Just it pops up, so, you know. Go ahead, Les.
Yeah, go ahead, Les.
No, I was just going to say that the transphobic parts of it were not thought of then. They were not a basic part of it. They made no sense when they started adding the thought that their director and writer were being transphobic. I think, to me, that's just a bunch of BS.
It's people in 2024 looking at a movie that's from 1984.
Yeah.
And trying to read what's going on.
Yeah. And I don't think they were trying to be that way either.
I don't. Yeah.
I think had they have been trying to be that way, they definitely would have played up this ending more than like the 10-second shot that you got. You know, I think the whole ending to it was big spoiler here, because up to this point, they've been leading us to believe that it was Ricky, the little kid, that was the killer. And so you know, then all of a sudden he gets knocked out. And so you're like, well, maybe it's her. So I think what they meant in a non-homophobic way was surprise. You thought it was a her, but it's a he, you know. So I don't think they were meaning for it to be, you know, transgender people or killers and, you know, they'll kill your kids kind of thing. I think that was supposed to be more of a mind twist for you. You know, you thought you knew, but you didn't know.
Oh.
Nowadays, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that. But I did go back and I read that article after I watched it, and they had even said that Psycho was also very homophobic. And it was like, wait a minute. You know, Norman Bates was sick in the head, but he wasn't dressing up as his mother because he thought he was a girl. He was dressing up as his mother because he couldn't let his mother go. That's why he was psycho.
Well, that was even dressed in the film.
So it was
with the psychiatrist
at the end.
Yeah. So to me, they wanted to cram it in that box, and it was like, no, that wasn't a transgender thing. That was him trying to be his mom, who happened to be a girl, but that was part of his psychosis. He couldn't let her go, so he became her. So yeah, but definitely one, like I said, I laughed all the way through these because being from the 80s, I haven't heard the word peckerhead in a very long time. And it's
that's what you took from the movie.
Sounds about right.
Some of the death scenes, I will say, for 80s, hats off to whoever the makeup artist was, because although some of them didn't make sense, like the flesh-eating bees, the makeup was on point and looked amazing. At the very beginning, one guy gets hot water thrown all over him, and the blisters and the ooze they had going, I mean, perfection. It looked amazing. So, and like I said, part of this, when I watch movies like that, you have to keep in mind this was the 80s. Today that would be so easy to do and wouldn't take very much time to do, but back in the 80s, they didn't have everything. That we didn't make these strides. It was because of movies like this that we were able to make those strides. But so whoever did makeup, amazing. Whoever wrote the story needs a little work. Just little. Second and the third, like I said, definitely you have to see those just to see where Angela goes. But they're not. I don't think they were meant to be taken serious like the first film was, especially the one-liners. The actress that plays her, once again, good job, because she delivered those on point. It was just kind of, the story just wasn't that great. But definitely, like I said, worth a watch. They do have some good kills in there, so. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be able to get Peckerhead out of my head for a while. I used to call my sister that all the time, Peckerhead.
And what kind of family were you from?
Right.
Oh, preacher's kids were the worst, man.
Oh, we were. That's just what I could call her at church. Oh, but one other thing about the first one. I'm sorry, I had a note on this one. Didn't you think it was kind of weird that at the very beginning of the film it shows her dad die? Then 8 years later, they're going to send her to the same camp that her dad died at. I mean, come on. Of course that's going to make a kid go crazy. She already doesn't talk because of what happened, So, yeah, let's just send her to the camp that's on the same lake that her dad died in. Make it make sense.
See, you make cracks about how movies treated mental health back then. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. But Ricky's mom she was a Fruit Loop. Yeah, she was a Fruit Loop.
I believe that's the technical term.
Yeah. And, I kept thinking, she's this way for a reason. They're going to come back to this, And I think they kind of did for what she did to Angela, but it didn't explain why she was her.
A Fruit Loop, apparently.
Right.
Too
Yeah.
good for Cocoa Puffs.
Mm-hmm.
You said if you're looking for a good couple of hours to kill, I think,
Don't watch these.
yeah.
Right.
I think I had to watch the first one on Freeview, and then the other two were on Amazon.
Because Amazon wouldn't touch the first one.
No, not at all. But I had noticed one other thing. When I went to watch these movies, I was greeted by a prompt from Amazon telling me, yeah, we are now going to charge you $3 extra a month if you want to watch this without ads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not a monthly subscriber to Prime. I'm a yearly subscriber to Prime, which means back in, I guess it was December when I renewed my Prime for having commercial-free TV and movies at $140 for the year. So, why are you now charging me $3 a month for something I already gave you $140 for? That's what I don't get. How can they change a contract on you like that? Especially, like I said, I'm yearly. I'm not month to month with them. I do pay by the year, which means shouldn't my contract be good for a year before you start charging me an extra $3 a month? I mean, which isn't a lot. Granted, it's not a lot compared to what the other streaming services are, but you take that $3, that's at the end of the year, roughly $40, and then add that to my Prime, which now means instead of $139 for the year for Prime Video, I've now paid you $180 a year. You're charging me more for my commercial. I mean, what the hell?
Well, it sounds like you need to contact customer support.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a breach of their contract.
I bet their contract is worded in a way that they can get around that, though.
Yeah.
Probably.
But to me, that just doesn't seem fair because that's not what you sold me at. You sold me for $139 to have this till the end of December this year, And now you're telling me, no, you've got to pay an extra $3 a month to get what you originally paid for. So it's kind of, I'll be curious because there's a lot of people who pay annually. Not everybody does month to month, So I'll be curious how they handle this, or if there's more people who will say anything about this.
Well, like I said, you need to contact customer service. Because
Yeah.
they should have sent you something. Because I've been getting stuff from Google from some of the stuff, and they said, well, we're increasing the prices here or there. I'm going, okay.
See, I didn't get anything directly from Amazon. I saw, like you said, Google and stuff had said that Amazon was talking about a ad tier. And I'm thinking, well, that kind of sucks for the people who didn't pay for their yearly contract. Well, guess what? I'm now part of the group.
It sucks for you, too, now.
Right. Yeah. But I'm curious if you take that and divide it down, how cheap they are now compared to the other streaming services that I've picked them over. So I'm curious how they'll do with this. When Disney announced their ad tier, they said they lost over 1 million subscribers. So I'll be curious how Amazon handles this, and if they'll see a drop off, or people are like, nah, I really use this for the 2-day shipping, or
Right, and that's what I was about to say, is that they're also including a different service in that, so it might not really be apples to apples.
Yeah. Because there is more than just the movie part of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't just going to buy Prime for the movie part of it. To me, it was a nice perk to have. And then the more I got to use it, I started buying channels over there and bundling over there. So it's kind of like, maybe this isn't the cheapest way to do it. And it was cheaper before because it was a free platform or basically a free, quote, quote, free platform I was using. It was something I was paying for anyways. So we'll have to see.
We will.
But yeah, if you're on Amazon, like I said, the first thing you do now when you watch a movie, they pop that up. And if you don't, I guess you get commercials.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds like it.
yeah.
Well, like I said, customer support, see if you can find out something there. Because like I said, with some of the Google services, I've been getting stuff for some of the stuff that's kind of related to the fellowship. And one of the things they were really pushing me is, hey, the prices are going to go up on some of this stuff. And I did the math, and it was like $2.40 a month. I'm like, okay, not that big of a deal. Because the other option was to pay a year in advance, and that was non-refundable. I've been thinking about handing them a couple $100 and only be there for 6 months, and I moved the services to another provider or something, and I lose the balance. I said, fuck that.
Yeah. See, for me, they didn't offer me a yearly. This is just a pop-up, and it's either yes or no, $2.99 extra a month.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, these are not exactly the same things, because you're talking about streaming services, and I'm talking about services
Google.
for Google, mainly the workspace type stuff, which I really don't use any of that stuff. But I mean, that's what I've been thrown into, because somehow the website has been designated as a business.
Oh.
And I can't freaking change it to not be business. I mean, the only way I can change it is to basically get rid of it. And I'm like, so it's something that I've been dealing with for a while. It's kind of aggravating, but I kind of let it go because everything's all right, I guess. But so, anyway, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Mikey.
Oh, cool. All right. So I watched a movie. Actually, now with the delays and stuff, it's been a little while since I watched this, but I thought it was interesting to talk about anyway. This is a movie called The Black Sleep. It was originally released in 1956. And it stars Basil Rathbone, and it's got appearances. I'm saying appearances because they weren't starring roles, to put it mildly, by Lon Chaney Jr., John Carradine, Tor Johnson, and Bela Lugosi. My understanding is that this is actually billed as Lugosi's final film. So that kind of got me curious. So I was curious to see what he did for his final film. Well, it's not exactly a speaking role. Ironically, Chaney's role in this is not speaking either. This is definitely Rathbone's movie. It's Rathbone and what's his name? Herbert Rudley. Herbert Rudley plays a young doctor. This is set in like the 1870s. Rudley plays a young doctor named Gordon Ramsay, of all things. No relation as far as I can tell. But he plays a young doctor who's actually sentenced to hang for the murder of some guy. Rathbone plays an older doctor who comes in and saves him at the last minute. I'm not going to go into too many details because it would be kind of spoilery. But Rathbone's character needs the help of a doctor of a competent doctor, and has a scientific method for saving the younger guy's life, and all he asks in return is basically his service in helping him with his experiments. His experiments are surgical in nature, and man, it would be so easy to spoil this movie because it's actually a really interesting premise, even if the entire story itself is it's more psychological than anything else. I mean, there are some surgery scenes, and that's kind of the ick part, but otherwise it's totally a psychological thing. And suffice it to say, bad things are happening, and Lugosi is in his final role. He's playing a servant who can't speak anymore because of something that happened. Cheney is playing someone. It turns out, and I think not too spoilery. He's a former doctor also, who now has a non-speaking role. And Carradine is also involved in the same way, but he does actually get to do some yelling, which is fun. Generally speaking, I actually like this movie. I could see where people might not. It's a bit slow moving for what the story is. It's actually okay. The scientific bits of it are interesting. The story itself is actually kind of boring. Which I guess that was kind of my complaint with the last movie I talked about. But I definitely think it's worth checking out. Don't watch it for Lugosi. You're watching it for Rathbone, for sure. But I mean, hey, Basil Rathbone, come on! It's entirely worth watching just for him.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I watched it on Tubi, but I think it's actually in a bunch of different places. I think you can find it in other places also.
It's called The Black Sleep.
The Black Sleep. I will say this: the Black Sleep is a name that they have started that they use for a drug that Rathbone's character has not developed but modified. And it's an interesting premise.
They have it on MGM Plus also.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing I looked at said it was also on Amazon, but...
Yeah, but you have to be a MGM Plus subscriber through
really?
Amazon.
Okay. That's right. Maybe that's what I saw, yeah.
See, which is why it's really going to suck if I have to let Amazon go.
Right, because you're going to have to go sub directly to a lot of it. Because it's really annoying because we've got a couple of things we sub to through Amazon, and like Discovery, I think, is one of them, for example. This is just an example. If you download the Discovery app, you can't use it.
Yeah.
You don't get a login for Discovery. You have to go through Amazon to do it. It's kind of annoying in that way.
Very annoying.
But it's also cheaper in that way to do it that way. You're only paying like, I don't know, $6 or $8 or whatever through Amazon, but you'd be paying $15 through Discovery or whatever. I don't know the exact numbers. It's something like that though.
Yeah. Yeah, because Discovery's bundled with Disney and Hulu and ESPN now.
Yeah.
See, like I said, that's why I liked Amazon, because I don't, if I didn't want like ESPN and Hulu, I can just go get exactly what I want.
How do you not want ESPN? I mean, come on. It's all sports ball all the time, Liz. Jeez.
The Ocho.
Foosball's of the devil.
Foosball.
See, even
That's what we're
Taco's
going
upset.
Taco isn't like even mentioning sports ball. I'm just saying.
He says, "Ball, don't play with my balls." Wait.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. All right.
No comment here.
I think we got a title there. Jeez. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Follow that, Les.
Good night, everybody. What I did was I was on YouTube and I came across a comedian that I really liked, Matt Fife, F-I-F-E. Matt Fife is a stand-up comedian, but he interacts with the audience. He doesn't just do his lines and say, "Good night, everybody." He interacts with the audience, and he has got some of the funniest skits on there. One of the first ones I saw was MILF and Cookies, where he was talking to a woman in the audience. You've got to see it because it is so funny. And there is a sequel to it because he was at this show doing his routine, and then I found that he did another show a different year at the same location and came across the same woman.
Oh, wow.
And got her phone and started up with that again because he was calling the woman's daughter. And he did it both times, and it was just funny. The language could be a little rough, but he pulled it off. He made me laugh. I had to stop the thing a couple of times to quit laughing so I could continue. It was that much fun.
Dang, glowing praise.
I recommend the guy. He's very witty, very quick, and he pulled it off.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Could use a laugh right about now. Check this out.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. I really don't have a lot on my end. I've actually gone back and kind of started watching the old Star Treks. Pluto has 2 channels. There's Star Trek, and then there's more Star Trek. Star Trek features the original series, and then Next Generation, and then more Star Trek has the rest. So I've actually been on the regular Trek, and so I've been kind of watching the classics. Just got into Next Generation. It's funny because they started with season 3 on Next Gen, which honestly, honestly, season 3 is when things really kind of they get into their own.
Yeah.
When things start getting interesting.
Yeah, the first 2 seasons had issues.
Yeah. The thing that got me, and I've noticed this with Mission Impossible. I'm not sure about the original Trek. They are showing them in production order. So instead of actually released when they were actually originally shown, which sucks because last night, and we're recording on a Monday night, so while everybody else was watching the Super Bowl, I was watching Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2 because we had got to that point. That's the season 3 cliffhanger and the season 4 beginning.
Right.
So I was watching that, and I was ready for the next episode, which is entitled Family, which is one of my favorites. That's basically, I consider, an epilogue to Best of Both Worlds because we have Enterprise going to Earth for repairs from the events of the 2-parter. Picard goes back to the family vineyard and visits his brother. And that is such a great story. That's such... I love that.
Yeah.
But we also have the story of Worf's human parents visiting the Enterprise. That was just as good. But unfortunately, that was 2-3 episodes later that they showed because it was not because they were in production order, not viewing order. So I'm like, oh God, I got to wait till midnight to watch that episode because we got to do these other 2 or 3. What I don't understand the thinking, but hey, that's not my job. But it's been fun kind of watching some of those because You know, I just before recording, they showed Cupid. That is the episode where Q shows up after Vosh shows up for the lecture and all that, and he basically sends everybody to quote unquote Sherwood Forest.
Oh yeah.
Where Picard's Robin Hood and Vosh is Maid Marian and all that, just for that one line. Captain, I must protest. I am not a married man. Seeing that one, and then the Q episode where he was kicked out of the Continuum, which that was fun too.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I watched those and I go, why didn't they do a movie with Q being the villain? And the only thing I can come up with is that he was at the series finale, which was a two-parter, and they wanted to do something other than a Q. But I think, God, that was such a missed opportunity. You know, Q with a bigger budget, and all bets are off on what he can do and all that. That would have been so much better than Insurrection or Nemesis.
Probably.
Probably.
The deal is, my thing would be that it really could go either way.
Yeah.
It's with Q, it could either be really good or really bad. People could really hate it.
Yeah, I know there's some people that don't like Q because of him just being so pompous and annoying and irritating. I get that, but to me, that's part of the fun. Because he is such an asshole.
Right, for a lot of the same reasons why you love the Trelane episode of the original series.
Right.
Because a creature with unlimited power and ability to do anything. Why would that person be a mature, well-adjusted grown-up?
Right.
I mean, and the deal becomes, okay, great, but how can you get away with 2 solid hours of a petulant child with unlimited power? I mean, that starts to look like a Twilight Zone episode after not very long.
Yeah, I guess. I guess, but it's just, oh man.
And that said, it really could be awesome.
It really, once again, it comes down to the writing.
Yeah.
Which, that applies to everything.
Sure.
It's just, the thing about the next gen films, and it's not just them, they all fell into the trap that you got to introduce the villain, you got to make him irritating and all that, then you got to kill him by the end of the film. There's no possibility of him being captured or anything like that. You've got to kill him or her.
Well, and you know where they got that formula from.
Right.
Bond.
Well.
Which is a damn shame because there's way better formulas out there.
Well, I understand that, but the one villain you could never kill was Blofeld, but then again, they couldn't use him for several years due to legal issues.
Mm-hmm. And by the time they got the rights back, or got anywhere, or realized that it was a waste of time in the first place, they had already shifted the formula enough to where they were killing them every time, so that couldn't happen again.
Right.
But the formula worked. People went to see those movies in droves in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. And the other thing with Bond is he's supposed to kill.
Mm-hmm.
He had license to kill.
It's in the title.
It's in the title, right? But the thing is that formula moved into other genres. Like I said, next gen, hell, Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Joker had to die. Penguin had to die. It just kind of got boring.
Yep.
It's very unoriginal. So, anyway.
And a bit self-destructive in its own way. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have had a string of really good Batman versus Joker films.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, were you going to get Nicholson to do it every time? No, you were not.
No.
But
No.
you could have found a way to continue and been really successful at it.
Yeah.
But oh no, we can't do that.
So, but anyway, it's been fun. It's been a long time since I actually sat down and watched some of the next gen episodes, and
I saw something the other night, and it kind of made me cry. Wil Wheaton had posted that I think it was it Next Gen had received an award, and he said, I've made it very clear from the beginning that awards don't mean anything to me. Doing the job meant a lot. He says what meant the most to me was that it was the first time that he was able to stand on the stage with everybody else and be part of the Next Gen. He was like, they always excluded me, and, I don't think it was the actors. The way he made it sound, it was more of a director thing. So it was kind of...
it was contractual. He was a minor when he was on Next Generation, and the stories he tells, his parents were extremely controlling, and so they just basically they didn't let him hang out with them.
Yeah.
They didn't. His parents didn't let him hang out with the cast and crew, and so he came in, he did his stuff, and then he was yanked.
Yeah.
And so he never got to feel that way, and it was later after he'd grown up and starting to do the con thing that they were like. They basically told him, "No, man, we didn't have anything against you. You just disappeared."
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
And so, in that setting, he kind of got to become friends with a lot of them. And
that's
so,
cool.
yeah, that's where that comes from.
Well, I felt, it was sad the way he described it, but I felt very happy that he finally had that moment that he's been wanting. Because as much shit as people like to give him, he was a major part of that show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
by design.
Yep.
By design. There's no secret being made that character, Wesley Crusher, was Gene Roddenberry created that character to be basically a clone of him, himself. So yeah.
So I'm glad he got that moment,
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Inside You podcast. That's the Michael Rosenbaum's podcast with Jonathan Frakes, and they talked a little bit about that. And Frakes was asked. He said, "No, we didn't know any of that stuff that was going on
right
during the filming and all that. They didn't know that till years later.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell was going on?" And they were floored when they found out.
Yep, I've seen some clips of those too, and also a conversation that Wheaton himself had on that show.
Yeah, that I haven't seen, but.
Well, I remember the joke being that he was annoying, but I don't remember that character being that way. I don't know if maybe because I like Star Trek, but
Well, there was the whole joke of him saving the Enterprise every week.
Yeah.
And there was the infamous "Shut up, Wesley."
Yeah.
I think it wasn't that the character was annoying. It was that the grown-ups just didn't tolerate him.
Yeah.
And they treated him like a child most of the time.
Yeah. But for me, when he hit Star Trek, it was kind of like, woohoo! I'd watched him in, Stand By Me and all this other kind of stuff. So, and posters on the walls,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, they sold those posters on purpose, like
Yeah.
I said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pretty sad story, but I remember giving him grief, but when I started hearing some of the backstory and all that, I was like, Shut up, Thomas.
Well, and I mean, as much as it probably sucked for him, being in Hollywood, it was probably very good to have parents like that. Very involved so things didn't happen to you kind of thing,
There are extremes that can be reached, and
Yeah.
I think his point was that it went far beyond what it should have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It bordered on abuse.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm happy for him.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, well deserved. That was a lot of years he put in.
It was a lot of hell he received.
Yeah. He went through a lot.
So
He's a big D&D player too, so gotta give him credit for that.
Well, he used to do the I forgot what the name of the show was on YouTube, where he would kind of demonstrate how to play some of the new games and all that, which was fun because I know this back when we had the store, that was being shown a lot, and that's kind of where I first started kind of, okay, he's kind of cool, he's kind of fun to probably hang out with and all that kind of stuff. That's where my kind of attitude kind of changed on him. Then I started hearing the stories, and they were like, oh yeah, well,
yeah,
I was totally, I really felt bad for him.
Yep.
So
I always liked him because it seemed like he could take the joke and laugh at himself, But I guess sometimes you kind of have to you got to laugh first so it doesn't sting,
Well, I'm pretty sure he's tired of the Shut Up Wesley jokes.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm sure he still gets that shit.
I imagine if he's going to cons, I'm sure he does.
So let's go ahead and get into our discussion this week. We're actually doing a twofer, trying to catch up for not being with y'all last week. We are continuing Batman. This is Batman.
Damn it! I was hoping after 2 weeks she'd have forgotten that, but nope.
No.
She must have written it down.
You have to say it every time you say his name.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You really don't.
You do.
No. Not at all.
It's his 85th birthday, so we were celebrating by doing some topics. So for this week, we are going to be discussing the Elseworld story, Gotham by Gaslight, which came out 35 years ago this year. So let's go ahead and start talking about this. This is one of the early Elseworlds, if I'm not mistaken.
First.
Was it the actual first one? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really early, wasn't it?
It's very early. In fact, you can't get earlier than that.
Yeah.
You could try.
Not without Time Machine, baby.
The story of a Batman roaming around in 19th century Gotham City and battles Jack the Ripper. What a good way to start off this new line of stories, huh?
Everybody loves a Jack the Ripper story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of Gotham by Gaslight.
Haven't we done a casting call on this?
No, but now that you mention it.
I thought I couldn't remember if I thought it was a casting call we did on this.
I'll have to check, but I mean, there's already been an animated film for it, so.
Yeah. And I cheated because I'm wanting to say the last time we talked about this, I had not read the story yet. So I watched the animated part of it. And I liked it. I really did. Different Batman, for sure.
Elseworlds.
Yeah, in Elseworld. I kind of liked how it still told the story of Jack the Ripper, but kind of blended Batman into it instead of like totally. I mean, we haven't definitely put a name to Jack the Ripper, so we don't know who he was, but
Which is a big part of why people still love the story.
right, the mystery behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. Like I said, I really liked the story. And the animated part, I wanted to slap the hell out of Catwoman a couple of times, but it happens. Yeah, I really liked it. I liked this. I liked the idea behind it.
There's only one problem with the animated.
Hmm.
It's not the same villain.
Oh, really?
Nope.
It's the villain in the comic.
Villain in the comic was not addressed in the film at all. The villain in the comic, sorry about the spoilers, gang,
Yeah.
but the villain in the comic was Gordon. Or, I mean, in the movie was Gordon.
I was going to say, that's what it was there, too. Which to
The
me was
villain
weird.
Villain
Yeah.
in the comics was a friend of Thomas Wayne,
Yeah.
Bruce's father. It was a not against Bruce, but it was a vengeance move
Against the Waynes.
by the character.
Yeah, it was a love triangle story, basically.
Ah.
If you get the chance, find a copy of it.
Yeah.
You can get them. In fact, they have an issue. I've got it here in front of me with that and what was it, Master of?
The sequel? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was called.
but it is depicted in this collection. So, Master of the Future. I enjoyed the story. I thought it was pretty riveting. And when it got to the whodunit part, it was really, to me, is really fascinating how they handled it.
Mm-hmm.
Sending Bruce to jail, that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
was pretty snappy. And this was before, how many, you look at it, how many times was Bruce arrested and charged with stuff? More than you would really think.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I also watched the film just to see the comparisons. And that was well done. And
I liked the film.
to give Gordon the demonic look that he received was pretty freaking fantastic.
Well, it was pretty cool to see Gordon that way. Normally, Gordon's the good guy. He's the one you go to when you're in trouble, and
Oh yeah.
he was not the one to go to in that one.
Nope. He was the one to stay away from.
Yeah.
I
Although,
thought,
and I didn't understand in the movie Catwoman's reasoning of I'm going to turn you in to keep people safe. What? I mean, what? You're going to tell everybody my secret identity, which I only shared with you because I thought I could trust you. And now, wham, bam, you're going to go tell Gordon. Not even 24 hours later, you're going to go tell Gordon.
that doesn't even rhyme, but okay.
Wow.
Can't dance
Well,
to
it
it
didn't
all,
make
huh?
sense either. Yeah.
The writing was phenomenal, And Mignola doing the art, and then to follow that up by P. Craig Russell, that just blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
Russell has such a distinctive style, and he softened Mignola's artwork real quick, and that made me extremely happy. I like Mignola's work, but it can be a little tough, a little rough to take.
Mm-hmm.
But this was phenomenal work.
Yeah, I definitely love the look of the story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the thing, when I first read this, maybe it's just me, I was kind of amazed how well the character works back in this time period. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he fits in.
I mean, that's one of the things though that makes. I mean, that's as much a question of the setting as anything else. I mean, Gotham City.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically how Gotham City is designed, and it translates to any time period.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, especially you go back to industrial London, and that sort of. I mean, you don't have to read a ton of Dickens to get a sense of what industrial London is like.
Right.
Gotham fits in with that really well. I mean, there are a lot of parallels there, and part of what makes that great is that, yeah, you can shift it up into the 30s, and it's kind of a grungy old city, and you can shift it up into the 60s, and it's still kind of a grungy old city, and you shift it up into the 80s and 90s, and it's still kind of a grungy old city. And Batman, I mean, I think Gotham is as much an important character in the Batman thing as anything else, as any person, and just about as much as Batman himself. I mean, he's there to. I mean, he's there because of his background, but he's there to respond to the grungy old city that is Gotham, and it has just always worked.
Yeah.
And happily responding to it. To me, he felt like this was his home. In fact, he said that when the ship landed. He said home.
Mm-hmm.
About the only thing I did not understand was Alfred picking him up at the ship and taking him back, sitting beside him in the carriage, and when they get home, he starts to say, "Sir, would you like me to draw you a bath?" But then he cuts it off and says something like, "Master Bruce, let me double check." Because to me, it was such a pivotal line, which is pretty foolish for me to say. He makes the return.
I'm sorry, I'm having flashbacks to the movie Arthur.
Of who?
The drawing the bath in the movie Arthur.
Oh.
And I don't think you want me to say that line.
No, I don't. Bruce arrives, and Alfred says, "Welcome home, sir." And then he cuts it off and says, "Master Wayne, perhaps a relaxing dinner, a hot bath." You were just with him, and you say, "Welcome home, sir"? Does that make sense to anybody? If it does, please explain it.
position you're not paid to notice.
Okay.
You just do your job and, yeah, you didn't notice.
See, the line from Arthur would have worked better. Would have changed the rating of the book, but hey.
It's a pretty dark book anyway, so who knows?
True. That's true.
Yep. Pretty good one.
Yep, I hadn't read it in a long time, and so it was fun to see it again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with previous statements.
Wow.
That's trademarked. I'm telling him.
Okay. I'll give him my nickel for that the next time I see him. I always really liked the artwork in this, and I mean it's an easy one to go to Jack the Ripper, like I said, but it's also, I mean, as a kind of a fan of the true crime version of that story, it's fun to see kind of one of the ultimate detectives in history put on that case, to see that case come to Gotham and rear its ugly head, as it were, in Batman's town. I mean, it's one of those deals where you think about how quickly he solves that mystery.
Yeah.
And you're not surprised, but also it's a testament to kind of the detective nature of the character.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the
greatest detective.
Yep. What she
World's greatest.
The world's greatest detective.
I'm going to debate that.
Oh, sure. That's cool.
Just because he was offered help. One of the people there asked him if he wanted help. And the reference was to Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think you could argue that some of the Batman character is based on Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
There's an influence there, for sure.
I'm just saying it's fun that they poke fun at part of it.
Right. They made the reference. They had a little fun with it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely one to read. Take your time and sit down with it. Enjoy it. Not just read it, but enjoy it.
Yeah, this didn't come out until 89. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hard to believe, right?
I mean, maybe that's the sort of the timeless nature of the whole thing, but yeah, it feels older. And I don't mean that in a bad way, in any way. But
okay, final thoughts on Gotham by Gaslight, and we'll move on.
Yep, good read.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out.
Okay, our other subject is, and I didn't realize it's been around. Well, it had been around this long, but Arkham Asylum was first introduced in Batman 258 50 years ago, October 1974. The thing about this is you kind of go back and think about it. You know, this is the first time they actually start trying to discuss the whole possibility of mental issues, and you know, Joker probably shouldn't be put into a prison. He probably needs to go somewhere where he can actually try to get some treatment. You know,
or at least not be put in a building with a bunch of criminals where he can influence them.
True. You know, and this you know, no other books did anything like this. You know, if you even thought about what happened to the bad guys, you know, everybody just thinks, well, they're just put in prison or something like that. But here, that's not the case. There's a lot of the rogues gallery from Batman need some medical help.
Need to spend a little time there.
Yep. So this is kind of a, kind of a bold move, don't you think? To do something like, it's something different.
It is a definitely a darker turn.
True.
For, again, not being that far removed from the TV series.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they named it Arkham, which I think is also a nod to a darker sentiment that they're heading for. Because of the Lovecraft parallels.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be a scary place.
Mm-hmm.
But was Lovecraft's version of Arkham more frightening because of what was done there? Or was it mental?
I don't think of it as a direct import. I mean, Arkham was really just a town where some things happened, and I mean, the things that happen in Lovecraft stories are generally horror that cannot be understood by the human mind. You're looking at, the foundations of cosmic horror are straight out of Lovecraft in the 20s and 30s. Arkham was just a place where people it was a reference point. It didn't actually exist. It wasn't a real town. It was a town it was a fictional town that was based on a couple of real towns in Massachusetts. And so I think the reference in the Batman world is a lot more symbolic, but meant to evoke that same there's scary shit there. Bad things happen.
More fear?
Yeah. Fear of the human mind. Specifically because it's an asylum, and it's the place where you send your scary people.
Yeah.
Especially given some of Batman's rogues gallery. Some of them are very scary people. And that's where they're trying to figure it out. And figuring things out in Lovecraft is universally a bad thing. There are things that man is not meant to know. That's a big theme in Lovecraft's work. Boy, I hadn't intended to turn this straight into Lovecraft so fast, but
no, but it's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's right to do so because of the fear factor that they had planted in the mind with Batman. That place was considered a scary frickin' place. That's all it is to it.
Right, there are an awful lot of Batman's fears locked up there. And what scares the Batman?
And this is what dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having like one of those weird moments where I feel like maybe I've read the wrong book.
Was there a book that went with this? I didn't.
There is, yeah. That's how it came out, was like 4 issues.
Oh, okay.
Or 6 issues.
I didn't read that either, though.
That was...
Maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's why this has gone so weird so fast.
Grant Morrison, right?
Yes.
There was a graphic novel back in '89.
Yeah, that came later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dave McKean was the artist.
Oh God, that was some beautiful and scary art.
Okay, I gotta track this down now. Apparently, it's been a long time since I read that too.
This too is available in paperback form.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you got a new edition here last year or so.
Yeah.
I didn't really
But
mean
that's
it to
the one
base it off.
We're talking about?
Well, it wasn't really basing off the book, but just the whole concept of the asylum.
Okay.
Yeah, since it was introduced like 15 years before that book came out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of Grant Morrison's take on where it had come, where Arkham Asylum, the concept had gone from in the 15 years that it had been used, basically.
So it's like, why did I not pick up on any of this in that book? Okay.
Because I'm making it up from what I know about Lovecraft. That's why.
Right.
Because I'm talking about the concept.
By you adding that, though, it makes me understand Morrison's work a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd be shocked
when
if
I
Morrison
read that
hadn't
book.
read Lovecraft.
I was pissed. I was so pissed. I hated that book so much. Probably started my hate for Grant Morrison.
Really? The Arkham Asylum graphic novel?
That's where it started? Wow.
Oh, man. That's where my love-hate for him started. See, and it's not his fault. It's totally my fault, and I'll take the hit on this one. I have ADD, which is why comic books is so great for me, because a lot of times when my mind gets to working a little too fast, I can look at the picture and I can kind of comprehend what my mind is skipping. So, comic books are great for that, because you don't have to, you know what I'm saying? It's, with his book, you had a story going on. Story was amazing. He was kind of talking about the history of the asylum and the lady who it was named after, and how she kind of went mad and, went mad in this house, and, kind of became her prison. So it kind of made sense that it became Arkham Asylum, as, her prison became theirs. But, is it totally freaking as interesting as that story is? The artwork that was going on in the story was not the story they were telling you. There was something totally different going on. You're reading about, I can't remember her name now, but like you're reading about the lady of the house and her descent into madness. But the pictures, you're watching Batman kind of walk through this mansion, and you see glimpses of like Killer Croc and Joker, but not really what he's doing there or why it just so disjointed.
Oh wow.
Well,
for me,
the premise was that he had to spend the night at the asylum in exchange for releasing some of the doctors and nurses that were being held hostage.
Oh right, yeah.
So
that
he spent
familiar.
so he had to spend the night there. So that's why it was that way.
Yeah.
So he was having to experience what all of them experience every day.
And then him knowing the history of where he's at too, kind of added more to that. But
yeah,
like I said, for me, it was hard to follow along, because the artwork was not following along with the story. Artwork was amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah.
But it just didn't go with the story.
But it's like a head trip version of the story.
Right. Yeah. So if they would take and separate it, I don't know if you can have a silent graphic novel, but the story that was being told there would have been great without the dialogue that was being told or wrote. So if you had just like a plain book of that story, that would have been great.
Just take out all the voice bubbles and all the narration boxes.
Well, there was no voice bubbles. I don't think anybody said anything during this whole book. It was all like letters and stuff he was finding in, like journal entries and things. So it wasn't really that's why it was like, what?
So that's why it's so disjointed and why it kept throwing you off. That actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So it was kind of
like I said, I haven't read it in years.
Yeah. And, like I said, it was great. If it was two separate works, it would have been awesome. But put together, it just kind of fucked with my head,
See, and you say that, and I find myself wondering if it being two separate works would be just boring and mundane.
I don't
It would make too
know.
much sense in its own way.
Because there's a fight going on between Batman and some of his rogue gallery. So it would have been, but see, that's the thing. I don't know if it was a real fight going on or if this was like a mental fight
Right.
kind of thing.
Exactly.
You
Now you're
know.
getting it. Now you're getting
So
it.
it's kind of a ah, and
That doesn't
Grant
mean you're gonna like
Morrison,
it more, but
he's never going to come out and go, here's what's going on.
right. That's no
You
fun.
know, he's going to make you work for it.
It's all
And
about the journey.
on this one, I couldn't see where he was coming from on it, which frustrated me. I wanted to like it because, it's Batman. It's Arkham Asylum,
But it's a madhouse.
Yeah.
And and I think one of the big questions that you get, and especially in some of the darker stuff with Batman, is he on the right side of the madhouse? How is he not just as crazy as the people he puts in there?
Well, and I'm wanting to say, like I said, it's been a while since I've attempted to read that book. I'm wanting to say that's kind of what he was questioning.
Mm-hmm.
Was how many people have I made like the lady of the house by putting them here,
Right, and what does that make me?
Yeah. Because I'm wanting to say the lady of the house was being driven crazy. She wasn't just crazy, But I don't know. It's been a while.
Right.
But Arkham itself, there's been quite a few good stories told out of Arkham. A couple of video games too. I think the best Batman video game is actually an open world where you can walk around Arkham. And that's kind of neat.
Kind of neat.
Yeah. Well, and
Kind of need to walk around an asylum.
That shit crazy, right? But
well, it was kind of awesome because it was the first time they let us do that.
Sure.
So it was pretty cool to kind of look around and see how it was laid out and everything.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember you're a huge fan of the Arkham Asylum games and that series of games. There was a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I enjoyed those games quite a bit myself.
Yeah. And then the best animated to come out of Arkham is still Assault on Arkham. I loved what they did there. It's not very often you find yourself cheering against Batman. But at that point, you wanted to see these guys succeed. You wanted them to save the day. So when Batman kind of shows up, it's like, oh, no, not him.
We're learning a lot about you tonight, Liz.
Right. Well, this was the Suicide Squad, though. So
right.
it was, that's the movie they should have made.
I think I remember this one. I think I remember seeing it several years ago, and I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That was one that I watched, and it was like, wow, WB really don't give a fuck what's going on in their animated department. Because I had never seen them go that hard, especially on Batman, So it was like, wow, they would never do this live action. Right. And then they gave us two different Suicide Squads, and it's like, yep, they couldn't do it.
Right, yeah. The deal was Batman was not a main character in that, if I remember correctly.
And almost the bad guy in this situation.
To a certain extent, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're watching, what I remember is you're watching the group of nutjobs, the Suicide Squad, if you will, kind of tearing themselves apart the whole time. If they could have figured out a way to work together, they would have easily succeeded at what they were trying to do, but they couldn't do it. Not a one of them could manage it.
No.
That's what I remember. I mean, it's been years, but
Well, they all went in with their own, it was one mission, but they all went in there with their own mission.
right, they all had their own agendas.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I liked it. I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember liking that one too.
Yeah.
I will say Arkham Asylum is not a book you can sit down and read easily.
Mm-mm.
It is very complicated, as is most Grant Morrison work.
Yep.
But, Liz, I'm going to have to disagree that the artwork wasn't fitting the story. To me, when Batman and Gordon are talking about what Batman has to do, that set the tone of the whole story. And that's when I had to jump. Yes, you had to jump from the past to the present to get a lot of the story. But it was a solid read.
Yeah.
And
I said I loved the story.
Uh-huh.
It was all the bouncing around that drove you crazy.
Yeah. Well, when you put those two together, yeah, it made my mind bounce.
Right. I can see that.
But I think most, like Les was saying, most Grant Morrison's work is that way. He makes you work for it. Which, honestly, as much as I say I hate him, I don't. I always go back to what David Pepose said. When an author can make you feel something, they're doing their job. And that's what Grant Morrison does. Sometimes it's not a happy feeling he makes me feel, but if it was lazy writing, I wouldn't care, or if it was bad writing, I wouldn't care. But sometimes it's so good that I get frustrated because I don't understand it.
Well,
I want to, but it's like you're over my head. And then you watch these interviews he does, and he kind of puts off that air of, if I have to explain it to you, it's not that good. So then you kind of feel small. And I think that's the part that I hate about Grant Morrison, is if he would actually explain himself a little bit better. Not everybody is a genius or whatever, Sometimes just a little bit of explanation, not a whole graphic novel to explain your multiverse, but sometimes a little explanation goes a long way, And
well, and I think, there's an argument that if people don't understand what you're doing, then maybe you're really not doing it as well as you think you are.
yeah.
And also, it can be difficult to separate the feelings that he's making you feel with the story from your actual feeling about the story.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to get that all mishmashed together. And so your part of your love-hate with him is you hate certain stories, but you may not really be hating the story so much as you're hating the feeling that the story gives you.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he wanted and is what makes it a great story.
Yeah.
Which you do a good job of recognizing. I will give you that for sure. But
yeah.
It's hard to separate those feelings sometimes.
But like happy, awesome.
Right.
I loved it. So he is that way from. There's no in between with him. I either really like the story or I really just don't connect with it, and.
Then you know that going in, and it's a risk, and you take the risk sometimes, and that's cool.
And I did with Klaus and loved it. So yeah, but
so basically,
I
not
think,
Batman is the deal here.
Yeah,
you like most of his stuff that's not Batman.
Yeah, because didn't he work on Superman for a while too? All-Star. I think I liked his All-Star run too. So there's certain things. I guess you're right. Maybe it is just Batman. I don't
Those
Is that
seem
the
to be the
Frank
ones.
Whiteley stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, those seem to be the ones you complain about the most with him.
Yeah. And I guess too, I'm very protective of Batman. He's been my childhood, you know. So I always, like, maybe get a little protective.
And by your childhood, you mean up to about a month ago. I mean, let's be realistic here. Am I wrong? You mean up to now? And hey, we all have our childhood still, and that's one of the reasons that talking stuff about people's childhoods pisses me off a little bit, is because I still view myself that way. I'm still experiencing my childhood. I'm just doing it a little differently than I did 40 years ago.
Yeah. We got more money and experience.
Right. We can afford some of the things.
We can afford our toys.
Right.
You get paid?
I work hard for my money. I'm just saying.
You work hard for the money.
Oh, God. The sad thing is, I thought that same damn time.
See, it's all about the writing. I put that into all of your heads.
You made us feel something.
You hate me for it, but I made you feel something.
Okay, Donna Summer. So, Arkham Asylum.
Awful place. Don't go.
It's a scary place.
It is.
And that's not a bad thing.
I've never understood, though, how for a place that's supposed to be very tight security, how the rogue gallery keeps getting out of it.
They're just that good.
There's got to be some holes in the walls, or
honestly, it's a plot device.
Yeah, you know.
It's there for people. It's there for them to escape from. It's there for the scary things to get out of sometimes, because sometimes scary things get out and come screw with you.
Yeah.
And as long as there's a Batman to put them back, we're all good.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I liked the Injustice story, though. Because you finally get Superman stepping in and going, how many times are you going to lock the Joker up? You know, every time he gets out, he kills thousands, you know, and then you just lock him back up again. How many times are you going to keep doing this? You know, and, you know, although he was on the wrong side at this point, but he did make a good point. How many people do you have to lose to save one person? Which is basically what he does with Joker every single time.
To save one person who has clearly proven that he's not worth saving. Right.
Yeah, and doesn't want to be saved.
Right.
You know? So I don't know.
It's an interesting take for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, I agreed with Superman at that point. They, you know, okay, you want to lock him up? Sure, we won't kill him, but we ain't going to lock him up here anymore. Because every time they get out.
It's too easy to get out.
Yep. And so his thing, you know, kind of like the Zod mirror thing, you know, his thing was, let's send them to space. They get out. Where are they going? You know, they ain't got a spaceship up there, you know, and that was kind of a good idea too. Joker gets out. Where's he going? Who's he going to kill? Martians? So...
Hey, now, in a world where there actually are Martians, that's a possibility. So
yeah, but, you know, less likely. He ain't got no spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
So that made more sense, you know. But you've got Batman who's always, oh, you got to save him. Why? Why? And why was he more important than the family he just killed, you know?
See, we get into the psychology of Batman a little too far with that one.
Yeah.
That may be a different show.
Yeah. That'd be a long show.
It might be. Yeah. This is getting to be a long show, but anyway.
Yeah. But you have to have it. Now, what is the difference between Arkham and Blackgate?
Blackgate's a prison.
Yeah.
Isn't Arkham pretty much a prison?
No, it's an asylum.
It's mental
It's a
hospital.
mental health facility. It's not
Okay.
a prison.
So
It's all about the funding.
Arkham is where the crazies from Blackgate go. Well, I shouldn't say crazy. The mentally impaired go from Blackgate.
Potentially.
Okay.
I mean, some of them might just go straight to Arkham because they know. But yeah, if somebody in Blackgate clearly loses it, then yes, they could be sent to Arkham.
Okay. But I hadn't picked up the Lovecraft reference on that, so I'm glad you brought that up, Mikey.
I try. Gotta pull my
Oh,
weight
you're
somehow.
very trying.
I got to pull my weight somehow, right?
No, you brought up really good points.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You
Yep.
did.
I would recommend this, but give yourself some time to read it. Because like I said, it is so heavy with storyline.
Yeah.
It may not spring you. It's not like sitting down and reading this week's issue of Detective Comics or something.
Yeah,
It ain't the pokey little puppy.
It's not a
Nope.
quick read at all.
It's a dense thing to read.
Well, even if you just blow through it, it's not a quick read.
Good luck blowing through it and getting anything out of it. That's the deal.
Yeah,
You
good luck.
won't. Yeah, you won't.
Take your time with it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
It is.
And then not only that, I'm wanting to say that the dialogue was wrote in red in this book. Now, for us visually impaired people, I'd like to say that really fucking sucks, man. They shouldn't do that. Don't be edgy. Just, put text I can read.
Yeah, they totally did that just to get at you, Liz.
Yeah. Well, it's not just me.
I know.
It's anybody with astigmatism. Red just doesn't register very good,
You have to look straight at it. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not for too long either.
Well, yeah.
But see, that was just another one of those things that was like, oh, he just has to be so edgy. Can't do anything normal.
You let that guy get inside your head way too much. You know that, right?
I do. And he'd be like, Liz who?
Right.
Oh, she bought my book. Does she want me to sign it?
That'd be $20.
Right.
No, I want to sit down and have you explain it.
Yeah. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with him, though. Just sometimes to see where his headspace was on some of the things he writes.
Yeah, you hear that, Grant? Anytime you want, man. We'll let you on the show.
Anytime. And, actually what kind of changed my tune on Grant Morrison a little bit was when he started doing his blog. And he kind of does go a little bit behind the scenes and tells you, what was going on at DC at the time and what was going on with him at the time. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot more sense,
See, and that's a cool way to explain it without explaining it, too.
Yeah.
That's an interesting take.
Well, and some of the things I didn't like that he did wasn't his choice anyways. He didn't like it either. So it was like, cool. I can like you now.
Vindicated.
And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand with these writers. Sometimes what you hate about a story is not their doing. they may have wrote it, but they were forced to write it that way.
But they have an editing staff, and
Yep.
they have specific goals in mind, and the writers get outvoted a lot.
Yes. Especially on Batman stories.
Yeah, a very
Which,
controlling editing staff.
For Batman to be such a badass, they sure do protect him like a Boy Scout. So, just say.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Superman was supposed to be the Boy Scout.
How are they protecting him?
I feel like anytime we get a good, edgy, dark Batman story,
Okay.
DC reins it in. They're like, no, we can't do that. You know,
Too dark.
too dark, too naked, too sexual, anytime they touch that line, you can see in the next issue they bring it right back. Nope, can't do that. Or hell, in the case of their first story on the Black Label, they didn't even finish it. So it was kind of a, they need to let go on Batman. He doesn't have to be this pristine, untouchable character. He's human. We're not allowed to. Well, he's supposed to be, but I feel like sometimes we're not allowed to see that side of him. He can't fail. He can't. I mean, he can fail, and sometimes the way they make him fail, it's kind of a. But I just feel that he's in this little bubble. You can't do anything that'll stick to him. And you can have Harley and Poison Ivy naked running around town, but don't you dare take his shirt off. Or Nightwing. How many times have they played that boy's ass up on a cover? It's like, but do that with Batman and heads would roll. So I feel like anything that would take a shot at his image is immediately shot down. Or anytime he's so close to happiness, they yank it away from him and make him crazy on a boat named Lenny. I mean, what the hell? I won't go there.
Too late. You already did. Anyway, yeah, Arkham Asylum is a really cool and interesting place.
Yeah.
You should visit there sometime, except it's fictional. But
don't visit there.
There's a lot of it comes up a lot, so
yeah,
it's interesting.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be back with Geek News for You. And we're back, and it's time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring a couple of news items to the table for discussion. And this week, it's Les and myself. And Les, would you go first, please, sir?
Thank you, sir. My article is from, I believe it's Netflix. And what they've done is they are listing the 20 horror movies we expect to take notice of in 2024. This is a slideshow presentation that you'll find on our website or on the Discord page. And some of these interest me. Some of them are kind of absurd to me. Some of them, the third side is, some are, why did they want to make this? Because you have some really good actors and they're given roles to play, as is the norm. The first one they list is one that I would like to see, and that is Lisa Frankenstein, which is a horror comedy. I have no problem with horror comedies. Some of them are very good. some are more like This Island Earth. So some of them are things to stay away from. The listing is extremely various, and some of them I'm not sure are even close to horror. Some of them are extremely dark. Some of them are extensions of series that have already existed. One of those that I'm not too keen about is The Crow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but why are we doing this? So I'm not keen on that, although I do want to see Nosferatu.
That does look good.
And this one stars Bill Skarsgård, Willem Dafoe, Aaron Taylor Johnson from Kick-Ass, Nicholas Hoult from the Sin City, and it brings in a young female, Lily Rose Depp. I think she might be relative of somebody. So this kind of intrigues me because I've always enjoyed the story of Nosferatu, one of the original vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that these will do well. I'm just not sure that some of them will. But that's what I got.
Yes, scanning the list, there are a few that's... Why?
Yeah, I'm a little biased by how many remakes and sequels there are on this list. This bothers me a bit, but it's also, that's just me.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they won't be good. It just means that I am initially turned off by sequels and remakes.
Saw 11?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the Alien movie's likely to be somewhere in the 11 range too at this point, if we're counting.
Yeah.
They have creatively named them so they haven't been counting them, but God, this has got to be the 8th or 9th movie by now.
And including the Predator movies. Alien versus Predator, they had, what, 2 of those?
Mm-hmm. In the Prometheus.
Yeah.
See the Godzilla Kong that's on here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's horror either, though. Maybe a dark thriller, but not horror?
It could be horrible.
I don't know. Like I said in the
there's no bovine in this.
If it's the same people who did the last one, not the Godzilla X, the one that's at the movies right now, but the one they did before that was really good. It's the first time I think they've made Godzilla look like he should and not like an iguana. You know? That was a plus. But sometimes in movies when you use a monkey, if you don't use a real one, they can look real fake because it's really hard, from a makeup standpoint, it's really hard to deal with fur without using real fur and it look right. So sometimes monkeys come off looking like a guy in a costume, and Kong and the last one and the pictures they have of this one, they've done really good making him look realistic and not so cartoony and fake,
But it's
although,
CGI.
it is fake. True.
Right, but she's saying it's actually good CGI for a change.
Yeah, for a change.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm kind of partial to Toho Productions.
Right. Yeah,
Which,
you're going into those movies wanting to see a guy in a lizard costume.
Yeah.
well,
Because that's fun too.
now that was the black
But-
and white Godzilla, right?
Oh, we're talking
In
about
colors.
Yeah. Well, the last
the-
one with the Titans, he did look like those guys. A little more modern, but I think that's the closest we've gotten to the older films Godzilla's. And then that world that Kong went into, Jesus frap, I want to see that. I want to see a movie there. That was pretty awesome. Just the effects they had to use, that half of it was upside down, and that was pretty cool. And it's going to be kind of cool to see them friendly with each other. And that, not to totally sidetrack us here, why does Godzilla hate Kong?
Why does who?
Why does Godzilla hate Kong?
He's just perceived as an adversary.
the threat.
Because they're both Titans, or
They don't know they're Titans.
yeah.
They're just big dumb animals. I don't have any idea. I've never seen these movies. I have no idea.
No.
But
I mean, there's an intense hate there. Very intense. And, at the end of the movie, there's not. So I was like, they're going to make a part 2 to that. But seeing now this is more of a team-up kind of thing, I like it.
for a second, I thought you were going to say they're going to make out now.
They're going to have
Well,
little monkey lizards.
Monkey lizard.
Yeah,
baby.
it was amazing how much they hate each other until Godzilla said Martha.
And then he's like, what?
Why did you say that name?
Yeah, pretty much.
That was downright cruel.
I had to.
No, you didn't. You
Oh,
really
yeah.
didn't.
No, but it was funny.
Yeah, it
Granted.
worked.
I'll grant that.
What would be hilarious if that little girl's name in this was Martha?
That would be awesome.
We need to write WB about
That
that.
would be a great thumb in your nose with that shit. That would be
Go,
awesome.
go back and redub the film so her name's Martha. Okay. I don't have a particular news item. I had something that I posted a while back that I thought would be fun to kind of talk about. It was something I hadn't really thought about until this had popped up. This comes from 13th Dimension website. I post a lot of stuff on our Discord about from this site. The guy who runs it, it's about in our age, kind of our age group. He does a lot of Bronze Age comics postings and stuff like this. But apparently there was some kind of discussion that was going on a previous post that led to this. And this is the top 13 comics characters who have made the biggest impact post Bronze Age. Did you guys look at this list?
No.
I am now.
Okay.
Going and looking for it now, yeah.
It's been a while back, but okay. So this list was put together by Scott Tipton, who's a writer. He and his brother Robert have done a lot of Star Trek stories for IDW, and Chris Rael, who used to be with IDW, he's now left to do books he's got like his own imprint with Image. So they considered, here's what they took into consideration to put together this list. Popularity. Did the characters have their own series? Did it continue steadily? Are there always comics with said character in the being released? Are they frequently guest starred in other books? Originality. Is this an all-new character and not just an updated version of an earlier creation? Remember that as we move along. Okay, exposure. Has the character made an impact on pop culture outside the printed page? Are there television series, movies, or merchandise? Beyond fandom. And they admit this is the most subjective one, but basically, quote unquote, would my dad have recognized that character on sight? So let's go ahead and move on to the list. Coming in at 13 is Invincible.
Heck yeah.
And he basically squeaks in because he's got 2 seasons of an animated series. Now he's
one and a half.
Well, anyway, we're not going to go down that road again.
Right.
But it's funny. That's not a character I would have thought of. But yeah, he's been around for 150 issues, something like that.
Yeah.
He's been around and it's been consistent. It's not been,
well,
he takes a couple of months off or whatever, like some of the other books. So.
And didn't Kirkman do this before The Walking Dead?
I think so.
So I'm surprised it wasn't made into a series before it was.
I don't know. I have not read the book, so I can't say one way or the other. So, all right, moving on.
It's a very good read. Invincible's a really good read.
It is a good read.
I know from what I have seen in some conversations that the trays in the omnibus, the book forms, are selling out constantly. So there is a lot of interest in the character, which is cool. So. Number 12, Steel. And Liz's buddy, Grant Morrison, had pointed out that he basically fills the Iron Man role for the DC Universe. And that's something I hadn't really thought about either. But he's been a character, he first popped up during the whole Ring of Superman story arc after they had killed him off back in 92 or 93. But he's been there ever since. He's not really disappeared from the books. He's there one way or another, as opposed to, Connor's Superboy had a long running series, but he would disappear for a while. And Eradicator never really had a series. He kind of just popped up here or there. So, but yeah, this is a character I like. I do like John Henry. So,
as do I, but the exposure part of their listing, I've got to go no.
You got to disagree with that?
Just because it was played by Shaquille O'Neal.
Played, air quotes.
Played what again?
Air quotes, played.
Well, yeah.
Okay, next on the list, Stargirl. Which is kind of interesting because, they mentioned that, yeah, she's not really a female version of Star-Spangled Kid. She's kind of developed into her own character. So, that's one of these that kind of is on the border. But, she's been popular enough to get a TV series. So,
And if I recall, that TV series introduced a lot of the JSA members.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the reasons I watched it, and I'm sorry that it stopped so quickly.
Yeah. But the fact that there was even one made is kind of surprising, but
True.
Yeah. Okay, number 10, Jaime Reyes, the Newt, the current Blue Beetle. Once again, that's borderline. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's like the third or fourth Blue Beetle, but it's a different take as the fact that he is bonded with the alien
Scarab.
Yeah. So, hell, he's got a movie out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's been around for several years now.
Did you see the movie?
I have not seen the movie.
Have the other two seen the movie?
No.
Mm-mm.
It's interesting. It's kind of thought-provoking. And they also include the other Blue Beetles. Just in the respect they have the outfits. So it's kind of fun to look at that and go, ooh, now I can see where Ted Cord came from and some other stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested. I would like to see the movie, so I'll probably need to stop down and watch it here soon. But yeah, he's been very successful. He's been around for a while. So I mean, obviously readers have drawn to him, but at least to the point where they decided to make a movie out of the character. Yeah. So, number 9, Spawn.
Woohoo!
I mean, yeah, here's another character that's been around 130, 40, 50 issues. Had a couple of animated series, had one movie about 30 years ago. And another movie sometime in the next 30 years. Right. Yeah. In the next 30 years, we'll get another movie. Yeah, I remember how popular he was when he first came out, and I read some of the early stuff. And it mentions that it's arguably Image's most famous character. And I would agree with that.
For sure, yeah. And I agree with this guy. He's got the best cape ever.
Well, that's McFarlane for you.
Yep.
If you go back, if some of y'all have not read Batman Year 2, I recommend it for several reasons. But it was a 4-issue miniseries, and I think it was either after the first or second issue. It was originally done by Alan Davis, and I love his work. But it was taken over by Todd McFarlane. So imagine the whole cape thing with Spawn, but it being Batman. Especially the last page of that miniseries. I mean, the cape is big enough to cover the Reunion Tower ball. I mean, it's like nothing but cape. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful page of art. So
I say the way that McFarlane did some of Spawn, the way that Gabe spins around and stuff, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm going to claim overexposure.
On Spawn?
Yeah. There's Spawn, there's King Spawn, Madam Spawn. There's just so much crap.
Yeah.
If you read one, do you have to read them all?
No.
No, probably not.
I don't.
Well, just like if you read Batman, do you really need to read Detective and all the other ones? Probably not.
No.
Unless you're a fan of the character.
Yeah.
I would argue he's not as popular as he was 30 years ago, but that may be just me. I may be so far out of it that I don't have my fingers on the pulse. I don't know.
But he does have staying power right now.
Well, the fact that he's been around all these years, yeah, is a testament.
Well, and part of that too, I don't know if that was all Spawn, but Todd McFarlane being his biggest cheerleader and keeping him there in the spotlight. Because McFarlane does so many different things. But if you ask him, hey, what about your run on this? And he's like, hey, but have you seen Spawn? Yeah, you did some cool toys, but have you seen Spawn? So he's kind of like the Stan Lee for Spawn. He's the big cheerleader.
Well, of course, he's got a
his
vested
word.
interest.
Yep.
Yeah, and if he asked me if I've seen Spawn, I said not in 30 years, but thank you for asking.
But isn't that kind of crazy though that he's worked on a lot of successful lines? He has that successful toy run, but he still hangs on to Spawn.
Spawn was his baby from the beginning.
Yep.
It's
Opus D.
That is the reason why he left Marvel in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, creators' rights and all that. Yeah, he was for that, but it was for him to do Spawn.
He wanted to create his own thing, and it was Spawn.
Yeah. I think he did a good job. I liked the story. A little different than your normal superhero origin,
All right, number 8, Cable.
Cable.
Yeah. I mean, he was in Deadpool 2. He's shown up in some of the X-Men animated series.
Cable.
I don't know. It's not a character I've really cared about. I mean, but he's got a lot of fans, so I mean.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about him other than Deadpool.
Well, he comes from a future. He's actually, unless they've changed it, he is the son of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. Unless they've retconned that from the future. So.
Huh. That's pretty neat.
Number 7, Morpheus. Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
Yeah. Another hell yeah. This was another one that was so different. And golly, how long has he been writing Sandman stories?
Well, I mean, it was the success of this that really made Vertigo the imprint that it was.
I like it. I think also, as far as this goes too, what he did with the series on Netflix with this is probably one of the better adaptations I have ever seen. You always run into that it's hard to cross over from one medium into another. Mm-hmm. But the way that they did this, they changed things, yes, but they didn't change. They only changed enough to tell the story on the big screen. Because in comics you have a little bit more leeway with, the fantasy and, the effects and that kind of thing. And with the time that they was given, the amount of work that he was able to squeeze into that, wow. And he's still got thousands of other stories he can tell from the same universe. They'll be stupid if they don't pick that back up. They've barely scratched the Sandman universe. And that, wow, yeah. I'm trying to think what other work of his would be that would stand up to Sandman, or as long as Sandman, but popularity-wise, maybe Coraline.
Maybe.
But that's, yeah.
Number 6, Hellboy.
Yeah, he's one that I didn't enjoy reading, but I like his movies.
See, I gotta go the opposite on that. I wish they had made a good movie of Hellboy, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
See, maybe that's because I don't know the source material to it very well.
I like the first one. The second one, I have not seen the new version, so I can't say. Honestly, I didn't have any interest. But yeah, the stories, I enjoyed the stories.
It is a good story. Very interesting how it was created, how Hellboy came to being. So.
And more Mignola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And they even have a picture of Monkey Man and O'Brien on there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a good series, too.
By Art Adams.
All right, number 5, Kamala Khan, the new Miss Marvel. She got her own series, and the trades have been selling out constantly.
So she's another I don't know very much about. I tried to watch the series, but I couldn't get into it.
Is this the one that the Marvel's movie is?
Yeah,
she's a member of it.
Yeah, she's the youngest Marvel. She's the Muslim.
She's one I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
But isn't the thought that she'll be the Sidekicks member when they come out with their new Marvel movie?
There's been talk about them doing or there's hope that they'll do an Avengers movie where it's the Young Avengers, where she would be part of it. Scott Lang's daughter would take up, which happened in the books too. It would be Stature and Wanda's twins would show up and all that kind of stuff. So
Hocus and Pocus.
You asked a legitimate question. I'm trying to give you a legitimate answer. What's your response? Okay. So, I've not read even her stuff. And God knows she's been included in anything that's animated. I think there's like a new Spider-Man show, and they have her there with someone who's going to show up later. Actually, it's going to be in the next one mentioned. Number 4, Miles Morales. Yeah, I mean, he's been included in the animated Spider-Man movies, and like I just said, they've included him on the Spider-Man animated series.
Yep.
He's been very, very popular.
I have loved Into the Spider-Verse. That, once again, I don't know who's in control of that, but I'm glad they put him in control, because I think it's kind of separated Miles Morales from Spider-Man. And I don't know. I like it. They also have a new kids show out with him. And it's kind of cool because it's him, Spider-Man, and Gwen, Spider-Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of him being Spider-Man, because when he first met Peter, he was like, hey, that's kind of confusing. So instead of him being Spider-Man, he's Spidey. And, for like Leanne, it's easier to distinguish, oh, that's Spider-Man, or, oh, this is Miles Morales. But she knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker and Miles Morales is Spidey. So I like what they've done with the guy. He's been different than just another Spider-Man,
Right. I know there's been some talk about giving him his own code name and all that, and I'm kind of on the fence about that because, God, how many Green Lanterns do we have running around? How many Flashers do we have running around?
Running around, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so why can't there be 2 Spider-Mans? Because
Because they would have to do away with Peter Parker. Because there can't be two at a time.
Why not?
Why not? That's what I'm just saying.
That's the question. Why not?
No.
No, you don't want to answer, or no, they shouldn't be?
No, there shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be, and she doesn't have an answer for the question.
I do, but I think that it goes back, I guess, to me and nostalgia. Peter Parker will always be Spider-Man. Bruce Wayne will always be Batman. You know, it's just one of those things that Miles Morales is such an interesting character, and he's so different than Peter Parker, to where it's kind of nice to give him his own name, because he definitely has his own persona, you know? So it's kind of a disservice to both of them he's just another Spider-Man. No, he's not another Spider-Man. He is, but he's not, because he's so different than Peter Parker. So almost to have, like a Spidey name or something, it kind of signals to the reader also, this is a different Spider-Man. This is not your Peter Parker Spider-Man,
Well, see, that's confusing, because if you're calling Miles Spidey, well, that's the nickname that a lot of characters call Spider-Man. So all of a sudden, if you call Spider-Man Spidey, okay, well, you talking to Peter, or are you talking to Miles?
Well, it's the same thing with Spider-Man, though.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with Flash.
Yeah.
But I bet when they're fighting or something like that, they're usually calling them by their real names, Barry or Wally or Hal or John, that type of thing. So, but it doesn't stop calling them Flashes.
Yeah. I think it means more to the character for him to be his own character. Even though he is a spinoff of an original, it still kind of makes him feel like this one's different. This one is important,
The problem is Miles came from a different universe where that Peter Parker was dead.
Yeah.
And now he's been pushed into a universe where Peter is alive and still being Spider-Man.
Yep.
And it's something Marvel has just never done anything to change it, and probably don't feel they need to.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think if Into the Spider-Verse puts out more and gets more popular, they'll almost have to, though. Kind of like they did with the animated show. They kind of addressed it there to make them, they're all Spider-Man. Even Gwen is a Spider-Man, but she's different.
Yeah, but I've seen her go by the name Ghost Spider, which doesn't make any sense to me, but okay.
Yeah, it don't.
But they still call her Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole thing with Mandalorian. We know his name is Grogu, but everybody still calls him Baby Yoda, which is like, come on, can we?
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, moving on. Number 3, Venom. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. He was another one that spun off from Spider-Man.
Spun off.
Hey, all the dad jokes you make us listen to, I get one, okay?
And that's your one. No more.
That's it. You're done. Just walk away.
And Chris's comment here kind of sums up my attitude. Venom certainly has his fans.
Yeah.
Me too.
I've never really been a fan of the character, but obviously I'm in the minority, and that's fine. If you enjoy the character, that's awesome.
He's another one. I haven't read a lot of his comics, but I've seen his movies.
I'm sorry.
And some of them are good. Some of them are, meh. They'll get it. he's a good character. They have a lot to work with there. They'll get it.
I think. I mean, when they first introduced him, I thought it was kind of interesting, but as they slowly worked him into a monster with teeth as long as his arms,
Yeah.
and the big ass tongue and all that, I'm just going, okay, this is a little too much. I don't understand why y'all got to go this route, but okay.
Yeah.
If they kept him a little bit more normal size, I think that would have been more interesting. Kind of like the whole thing with the original premise for Terminator. James Cameron wanted the original Terminator, to look a lot more humanoid. He was going to use Lance Ferguson as the Terminator originally, and which makes it more scary because he fits into any scene. You got a crowd of people there, and he's in the middle of it. You can't tell that he's a possible robot from the future is going to kill you, where opposed to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's kind of the route they've gone here. They made him big and muscular and all that, and I think he would be more scary if he looked a little bit more human-like.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Like he was in the Spider-Man movie. That was a little bit more realistic.
Yeah. So, but that's just me. So, alrighty, number 2. Les's favorite character, Deadpool.
See, I like Deadpool. I feel like he didn't really find his popularity until right or maybe a year before his first movie came out.
Oh, I think he's been popular before that. I think when he first started doing the breaking the fourth wall and making the jokes and all that, that's when things took off, because he was not that way originally.
Yeah. I like that Deadpool. And I think, honestly, Ryan Reynolds himself has made me like this character a lot more than the comics did, though.
Yeah.
But he's goofy. He's like everything a superhero shouldn't be. Or I guess he's not a superhero, he's an anti-hero, or yeah, but and his powers are kind of neat. I don't understand, though, that if he's from the same project that we got Wolverine from, and he can heal and self-generate and everything else, why couldn't he fix his face? I mean, it was burnt badly, but shouldn't he be able to self-heal and look normal again?
Ask the writers.
So it's kind of, that's the only thing I didn't understand about Deadpool.
I'm sure that's been addressed somehow in the books. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, maybe it was the chemical or something they used. I'm not sure.
I've read some of his stuff. Matter of fact, the Deadpool core, I bought that, the miniseries, but it was because the premise was just so stupid. But there was something about it. I mean, you're talking about, in addition to Deadpool, you've got Lady Deadpool, or Lady Pool is probably what they call her. Yeah. You got Kid Pool, so it's a kid with twin lightsabers. You got Dog Pool. You got Head Pool, which is the head of the zombie from the Zombieverse. And they're flying around in a ship called the B. Arthur. I'm going, okay. I sat down and read the first issue and like, okay, you know what? I might get this. And it was like 4 or 5 issues. That's like, some of the stuff's been funny. I don't remember what book it was, but he was in it. It had to be an X-Men book, because they were going somewhere, and someone mentioned Star Trek Next Generation, and he says, Hey, doesn't that star that guy that looks like Professor X?
A little bit.
So,
I think what makes him different is he's so funny, but the comics and the movie too is just so violent that it shouldn't be funny, but it is, So it's kind of one of those you read, you're like, what's wrong with me? I laughed at that. I shouldn't have laughed at that. So
When Wade Wilson first appeared in the movies, he was one of the commandos along with Logan.
and he
yes,
left him there.
It's that Wolverine movie that no one wants to mention.
And see, that was
because
another one. His mouth was like
it was
skin
sewn shut.
Yeah. So it's like, how did he? But it wasn't like sewn. It was like skin. It was like nothing was there. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And of course, they named him Wade Wilson instead of to take a shot at DC. Slade Wilson.
Yeah. That's funny.
And number one shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Harley Quinn.
The girl. See, and I have to disagree with him here. I don't like what they've made her into. I don't. I know it's toxic love and blah, 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 and unhealthy, unstable, shouldn't be in a relationship together, but she was made for the Joker, period. When that was her whole reason for being drawn and brought into the Batman universe was Joker. So for them to take her and from that extreme, and now she's like way over here on the other extreme, just kind of, I don't like it. I'm not saying she has to be with the Joker, but she don't have to be who she is today.
If she stayed with the Joker, then she would be bland.
She would.
When she first appeared on the animated series, it was a very amusing episode, but it had some depth to it.
Yeah.
When she first appeared on the cover of one of the Batman books with the Joker, it was something different because you'd seen her, the character in the animated series comic book, but then she turned and she became to me a three-dimensional character.
Yeah.
And if she had stayed, if they had just said, no, we want you to be Joker's girlfriend, that would be so boring. You would not get to see her.
Yeah.
She would have disappeared.
Maybe not so much his girlfriend, but a partner.
Even if she had been a partner, she would have been dying on the vine because DC was going to do Joker stories.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't be in appearance in it. Taking her off Joker and putting her in her own publication was a smart thing.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Well, and the early Harley stories were great. Yeah. I think once they put a person to Harley, they kind of started changing who she was in the comic books too. And to me, I didn't like that shift. She could be a badass. I mean, hell, she has gone toe to toe with Batman, and Batman was the one who threw the towel in, So she doesn't definitely have to be, a sidekick or anything. She can stand on her own. I don't know. I think not necessarily in a love interest kind of way, but there was a spark between her and Joker. They kind of played on each other's madness. And without maybe the love story involved with that would have been kind of interesting to see where that would have gone, how far they would have gone. But now they've got her as this little blonde, stupid little bimbo, and it's like, guys, she was a freaking doctor. Bitch had smarts. She went crazy because of him, but now that she's away from him, why is she still stupid? Why have you made her this brainless, stupid person? And that's what I don't like that they've done to her. They forget that, yes, she's insane because she was with the Joker, but she's not stupid. That's what makes her dangerous, is she's not stupid.
Well,
she can be funny.
They don't show her in the Suicide Squad movies. They don't show her stupid there.
Yeah, they don't show her too smart either.
Yeah, they do. They show her smart in the way that how she comes up with some of the ideas.
Yeah.
Even her movie about the saving of Harley Quinn, I thought was very good because it showed her in a leadership role. Plus, it gave her a range. In the first Suicide movie, she was playing the dumb blonde.
Yeah.
But she knew what she was doing. She was not the leader of the group. The second Suicide Squad movie, she was essentially the leader.
Yeah, she was.
Now,
well, when they were together, most of the Suicide Squad, most of her story was told by herself with that crazy dude.
Crazy dude?
Hi, I'm Crazy Dude.
The one who
that guy.
Yep,
had her tied up and everything. When she was in that pretty dress, she was like, why do I always go after the asshole? I think she wound up killing him and walking out, but yeah. I do like the way that they portrayed her better in the second one than they definitely did in the first one. But because of the way that she played in the first one, I didn't watch Birds of Prey. Yeah. And also part of that, not Harley aside, I'm not a big Margot Robbie fan. So it was hard for me when she took the Harley role because it was like, I don't really like her. Not because she's Harley, because I just didn't like her.
Okay, so you had your mind set as it was.
Well, on her as an actress before that, yes. Now, Lady Gaga, I think she can sing. She's got that little Bronx accent down that's going to stay consistent. I think she can add that crazy that's kind of been missing from Harley. I think she'll be able to play that off Joaquin really good, and she might surprise us on the Harley she gives us.
But you got to remember, that's not in the Batman universe.
No, it's an Elseworld. But she did one where she was the fashion designer. And given the girl used to wear meat for clothes, I kind of wrote Lady Gaga off because I didn't like her music. Was never into her kind of monster theme, But seeing her act in some of these roles outside of her music, she's actually not that bad. I've been surprised a couple of times by her. The movie she did with Bradley Cooper, I thought she showed a lot of range there. She was on American Horror Story and like ate it up big time, you know. So I think she might actually surprise us on this one. And I will be her toughest critic, believe me. This is my girl.
Okay, let me ask all of you, what are your favorite and least favorite of the Harley Quinn actors? And I'm looking at the animated series. I'm looking at Margot Robbie, and I'm looking at the actress that did Quinn in the movie Batman and Harley.
Well, I gotta admit right off the bat, I've not seen Batman and Harley or the new Harley animated series. So, I mean, I really shouldn't say one way or the other. I mean, I love Arlene Sorkin.
Okay,
awesome.
that's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah,
that's the animated I'm looking at, or that one. But the animated movie Batman and Harley, was the girl from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, like I said, I had not seen that.
Other girl.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that or the Harley series. So I mean, I can't really make a proper judgment. But I've always loved Arlene. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like her, and I also don't think that Tara Strong has done a bad job with her. She's done a lot of the games and a lot of the animated stuff with Mark Hamill. And she's another one that I have to separate her from her work. But she's voiced my childhood, so. But what was it, Arlene Sorkin? She was the first.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, of course, the first always holds a special place in your heart. But animated or real life, I don't know yet. Maybe I'll see Margot Robbie a little differently after I see Lady Gaga's version.
You've got Kaylee Cuoco that's doing the Harley series
animated.
on Max.
She's actually done a pretty good job over there on that. Once again, I'm not real crazy about some of the storylines that they've gone with, but as far as her portraying Harley, she's got that little quirkiness. She's got that accent, you know. So she's not done too bad over there either.
And the one from Harley and Batman also was from Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm. She was the cute little blonde.
Right.
Yeah. You know, she might be cute as a live action Harley.
No.
No?
I'm sorry, she's too short.
Yeah.
The woman stands under 5 feet.
Yeah.
Oh, so she can play Wolverine.
Dynamite.
She can what?
She can play Wolverine then.
Yeah, no doubt. Or at least Puck.
But yeah, I could definitely see her being number one on this list because she started off as a little bit character, and look at her today. She is standing on her own. Yep. I think people who don't even read comics recognize her.
Because she's everywhere.
Everywhere.
So, very interesting list.
It is.
I think some of it's up for debate. Like I said, they talk about one of the criteria they use is originality, and you've got Stargirl. Yeah, she's her own character, but I mean it's based off it. We're talking about splitting hairs. Because she's not a female version of a male character, and the same thing with Miles. He's not a black version of Spider-Man. He's his own character. So it just seems like it's got. But it's funny how they include them, but Damian or Tim, which they had as honorable mentions, including Gwen, Spider-Gwen, honorable mentions, but they hold them back because of those criteria. So it's kind of an interesting.
Well, then wouldn't Miles Morales be held back for that too?
That's what I'm talking about.
Huh.
Or Blue Beetle. I mean, he is his own character, but that's kind of what I'm kind of getting at. But so anyway, it's a very interesting list.
It is.
Any special shout outs or mentions this week?
Nope.
Nothing here.
Yeah, Mikey's saying, let's get this over with. We'll move on to our regular shout outs. One thing, Pop Goes to Culture, for allowing us to be part of a great podcast network. We suggest that you check them out. There'll be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the 5 men and women who are so kind enough as to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our links. And that is the Pottern family that's on Twitter, or X, however you want to call it. Best way to check them out is to go there and do a search, hashtag Pottern family, scroll through, and whatever catches your eye, go ahead and get that episode and check them out. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. In our show notes, there'll be a link where you can check out their music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. Any feedback would be appreciated. Email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out. I mentioned it earlier. We do have a Discord that's free to join. Discord is free to sign up. The apps are free on any app store. We do have open invitation on our homepage. We post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, stuff to jam out to. We do put some music on there. We do some activities on there from time to time. So come join us if you'd like. Social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram, Hive Social, and Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. If you want to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always, and we've gotten a lot of support this last few weeks, and we do thank you for that. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,